Hello and welcome back to London Cycle Routes. Today I'll be showing you how to cycle from Battersea Power Station in South London to Clapham. This ride takes just 10 minutes and you can do the whole thing on quiet streets and protected cycle lanes. By public transport, the same journey would take between 20 and 30 minutes, so cycling is the logical way to make this trip. If you find this video useful or you just enjoy watching it, then please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, as I try to post new videos just like it every week. I'd also like to say a huge thank you to everyone who supports the channel on Patreon. If you'd like to contribute as well, then you can find a link in the description below the video. Alright, let's get going. So we're starting at the north entrance to Battersea Power Station next to the River Thames, and we're going to head around Circus Road East. I have mixed views about the development here, but one thing that they did get pretty right is the public realm. You can walk and cycle around more or less the whole thing without being troubled by too many cars. There's also a large underground bike parking area which is coming up on our left here. I don't want to be too down on that because it is cool to see extensive cycle parking included in a big development like this, but equally maybe a bit more thought could have been put into its design. It's only accessible via elevator, which is fine if you've got a standard bike, but less fine if you've got a cargo bike or adapted cycle that might not fit in there, and the racks in there are also quite tricky to lock your bike to securely. Still, it's certainly better than you get in most places in this country. We're going to briefly use these protected cycle lanes to get to the crossing of Battersea Park Road. Those lanes should be extended all the way to Vauxhall Bridge within the next few months if all goes according to plan, but for now we're only on them momentarily to get us to Thessaly Road. Thessaly Road has its own two-way protected cycle track running alongside it. It's a little bit on the narrow side for a two-way track, but it has relatively low levels of usage, so I think it's pretty comfortable to ride on. Interestingly, you might consider this cycle lane to be a little bit overkill. That's because Thessaly Road itself is actually closed at one end, so doesn't really have very much in the way of through traffic on it. As you can see, the carriageway just doesn't really have many cars on it, and you'd probably be perfectly comfortable cycling on there as well. But it's nice to have the lane too. I believe that this lane was actually built with what's called Section 106 money from the nearby Battersea Power Station development. That's where developers have to contribute funds to the local council to upgrade infrastructure and other things around where they are. It's also why the lane gives up where it does, because we've just crossed the border from the London Borough of Wandsworth into the London Borough of Lambeth, and the lane was only paid for up to the borough boundary of Wandsworth. For anyone who doesn't know the history of Battersea Power Station, it's a former coal power plant which was decommissioned in 1983 and has been lying vacant ever since. Various uses have been proposed for the building over the ensuing decades, but none came off until now, that is, and a Malaysian consortium basically turned it into a high-end shopping mall / luxury apartment complex. Maybe not the most public-spirited use for such an iconic building and landmark, but it's certainly nice to have the building saved and back in use. The new development did get an extension of the London Underground's Northern Line, which is really helpful for getting from there into central London, but in terms of connections to other parts of South London, it's not so good by public transport as we saw with that comparison at the beginning. Geographically though, it is really close to a lot of other town centres in South London, and that's why getting there by bike is often a great choice. I think we're getting to Clapham in just 10 minutes and we're doing it almost entirely on really quiet streets and protected lanes. I think anyone would be comfortable cycling on Larkhall Rise, which we're on at the moment. You can see we're just passing someone with a cargo bike there with kids in. It's a perfectly pleasant place to ride a bike, The main reason for that is that this railway bridge coming up ahead was closed to general motor traffic in both directions by Lambeth Council recently, and that means that there's not really many through routes on that street there. We're actually doing this ride at the evening rush hour, and there isn't really much in the way of traffic at all. I have heard people say that when the traffic situation gets busy on Wandsworth Road, you do sometimes get motorists using Larkhall Rise to bypass the queues of traffic on Wandsworth Road. I've not personally seen that myself, but do be aware that it can happen. One interesting thing to note, I think, if you look at the floor here, is you can see these two cables stretched across the road. That's actually a traffic counter, and local councils use them to monitor traffic levels on streets. If a council is monitoring the traffic level on a street, it usually means that they have in mind some sort of scheme locally to change the traffic management system. I do wonder if Lambeth has anything in store for this area. I think it could benefit from a low traffic neighbourhood, a wide area approach to complement that closure on Larkhall Rise as well. The other thing that I would raise is I think the carriageway is often too narrow on here. There's a little bit too much in the way of parking, which narrows the road a lot. It would be nice to see some of that turned into extra space, or maybe some planting as well, just to brighten the place up a bit. Lastly, we are finding ourselves on Then Street, which is a lovely pedestrianised street in the heart of Clapham with a good cinema on it as well, the Clapham Picture House, well worth a visit. I'd love to see more streets like this in London, but fortunately it gets us to our final destination here on Clapham High Street, just at the end of Clapham Common, right in the middle of Clapham. And as you can see, and as you probably noticed, that's not a particularly long ride. It only took us around 10 minutes, yet the not so great public transport links from Battersea Power Station even to this nearby town centre mean that cycling it is a great way to make the journey. So thank you so much for watching that. Remember, you can download a map of the route in the description below the video. If you are new to the channel and you like what you see, make sure that you hit the subscribe button, as I post new videos every week showcasing different routes and infrastructure around London. Do leave a like for the video if you enjoyed it, and a massive thanks again to all of those of you on the Patreon who keep the channel going with your generous contributions. If anyone else would like to contribute too, you can find a link in the description below the video. Do let me know in the comments what you think of that. I'm particularly interested in people's views on the Battersea Power Station development. Have you tried out the underground cycle parking? What did you think about it? Do you think I'm being a little bit too harsh there, or is it fair enough? Let me know below the line, and I will see you guys again next time.